Mark Gurman, who's now, of course, at Bloomberg. Big article. Sources say Apple to unveil 3 iPhones this fall, including a revamped iPhone with an all-screen front, curved glass, and a stainless steel frame, along side upgrades to the current models. This is not. I didn't read anything in here that we hadn't read in other places, but when it's all put together, I think you get a fairly complete picture. And of course, one of the things Gurman refers to is this week, the new Samsung Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus come out. OLED screens, almost edge to edge, certainly edge to edge left and right, almost edge to edge top to bottom. Built-in home button underneath the screen. A lot of really kind of raising the ante, and a lot of things that I think everybody expects Apple to do. Apple's made a deal with Samsung, which is, Samsung kind of owns OLED screens. They made a deal with Samsung for, I think the number keeps going up. The last number I saw, 100
all
million.
The rest, whatever was left.
For whatever they aren't using. We'll take it all. Amazing that many, but that's the problem Apple's facing.
Yeah, it's not unique to Apple either. Google has I think last week there was a news item that they have put something like $800 million investment into, I think it's LG, because they need to have some sort of source for any kind of OLED screen for the next version of their Pixel phone. And so they're basically saying, what if we were to buy a company, essentially, that makes OLED screens? We don't care what kind of screens they are. If you have some machine with the letters O, L, E, and D in it, we will give you money to just say, please sell us screens at the end of the year. So yeah, this is going to be a problem for a lot of companies.
So Apple kind of broke the mold a little bit with the iPhone 7. That was the 3rd year in a row, really, pretty much, for that design. So this next one is going to be a big deal. Although maybe I'm reading this wrong. I'm reading from this and other rumors that there'll be 3 phones, 2 of which will be very much like the iPhone 7, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a constraint on how many let's call it iPhone 8 for the sake of expediency. There's going to be a limit on how many iPhone 8s they can make, and the technology in it is going to be expensive. And they've shown some elasticity with iPhone pricing, like they bumped the price of the Plus model up $20 this year, and you got a much better camera for it. But if there's only one iPhone and it starts $100 more, that's a problem, especially when people are used to getting iPhones at certain price points and a choice in different sizes. And this is the opposite of the Mac Pro thing, where they're not just can't innovate anymore. My ass, here's the iPhone 8 is your only choice for iPhone. Yeah. That's it. They are going to keep the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus and rev them to iPhone 7s and iPhone 7s Plus. And that also takes a tremendous burden off the iPhone 8. It does not have to be everything to everybody. Absolutely. It does not have to be the same price point. It doesn't have to be as inexpensive. And also, it's a risk. Apple's betting big on this, and there's a lot of new technologies in it. So if it's not as audacious as they hoped it would be, it's also, you've got these other 2 iPhones that are exactly what you thought they were going to be, and it de-stressed the situation quite a lot.
Now, this may be completely out of left field, but we have seen a number of articles, CNBC also reported this, that Apple's having trouble with this fingerprint sensor, this embedded fingerprint sensor. And according to an analyst at Pacific Crest, they put it out in their newsletter, there may be a delay, or they may... Listen to this. The anticipated move to a full-screen OLED panel, I'm quoting Pacific Crest, in the coming iPhone 8/X eliminates the physical home button, which necessitates a move to a virtual home button and an optical fingerprint sensing solution to read fingerprints to the OLED panel. At this point, says Pacific Crest, we do not believe Apple's optical fingerprint module provider has firm orders for production.
It's not so. Financial analysts, I would just disregard them en masse. But the basic idea is that Apple always has multiple prototypes. Some are audacious and some are conservative. And moving the touch, they've already virtualized the home button. The physical home button is gone. It's a virtual home button now, and that part works fine. It's getting it underneath the screen that's proving a challenge. Samsung had the same thing. They wanted, I think it's called Synaptics, the technology they use for their Touch ID sensor. They wanted it under the screen in the Galaxy S8, and they just couldn't do it. The technology wasn't there, so they had to put it on the back instead, and they put it next to a little camera thing. Apple's trying the same thing. Apple bought the company that makes their technology, Authentic, several years ago, and they're launching 6 months after Samsung, and maybe they will solve this problem. And the more audacious prototype does, in fact, try to solve the problem by putting the Touch ID sensor under the screen. And it remains to be seen how that'll work for accessibility. Like, will it be haptics? Will it be a little divot? Like, how are they going to solve for where's the home button? if you're hard or have no vision. But the more conservative prototypes are on the back, because that's where you go if you can't put it on the front because of all this
Pacific
technology.
Crest extrapolated this to kind of a shocking statement that they think that it's possible there will be no fingerprint sensor on the iPhone 8 and they'll rely on biometric instead.
What is biometric?
That's
like iris
funny. Thank you.
scanners? I mean, that's the ones that everyone's so happy with it on the GS8.
Yeah.
Everyone's really loving it on the GS8. So
Yeah.
we'll see how
It's been a long winter. We could all use a good laugh. Thank you, financial analysts.
Okay, good. All right.
But everything. Renee really had it on point. It's you'd be surprised. My specific knowledge is usually of what goes on behind the scenes of these things. I was usually like 3 or 4 models back, but it's always surprising to me at how late what might think to be a critical decision is finalized. Like they will have several different kinds, and there are going to be people arguing for one point or another, and things that might have seemed like, well, we're definitely not moving forward with a new phone unless it has this feature. And then they finally decide that, okay, here's everything we will have to do to make this work and all the risks we're going to take. And then out of what seems like a very late date, boom, that feature is gone. My usual line of thinking is that if there's rumors of something being in trouble, it's not really for the new iPhone. I usually don't give that a lot of credibility until about June, sometimes even July, because I feel as though the design is not 100% up in the air. But the idea of, are we going to have a physical? Are we going to remove the home button or from the front of the screen? Are we going to move it, or are we going to make it completely embedded inside the glass? That I believe that could be finalized as late as June or July.